You've reached the voicemail of Suzanne Husband's Early Resolution Advisor. I'm currently away from my desk. Please leave your name, number, and a brief message, and I'll return your call as soon as possible. Thank you.
Start recording at the tone. When finished, press the pound key.
Hi there. I hope everything's going well. I was wondering if somebody could give me some assistance. I just got this number from a chain there. I was looking to file a complaint against Suzanne Husbands of fraud and retaliation. I'm just wondering if somebody could please give me a call back and just let me know where I would do that and who I would direct that to. And if just in your response, I would actually like and appreciate for you to refer to me as Daddy as my gender pronouns. Daddy Drawers will do. My phone number is 902-220-9106. And I very much look forward to your reply. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a splendid day. Hi, Crystal. My name is Scott Jewers. My phone number is 902-220-9106. We spoke several times in regards to the case there. Now, I had contacted you a few days ago asking about the case and why the individual had closed it, and I haven't received any type of response back. Now, like I stated, you guys have violated Section 46 of your own Medical Act, and when you sent this off to my abuser and their co-workers, and the way that Suzanne Husbands acted was beyond unacceptable. Right, I was re-victimized again. She lied about it. She defamed me. She stated I didn't ask for an appeal when I stated these are really good questions. I just need you to answer this. Exactly showing that they would do exactly something like that when asked about privacy. They would retaliate, that they wouldn't file the complaint, nobody would contact me back. Well, you're saying there should be some sort of implicit trust between these other parties. Right? Now, the fact is, Crystal, you see all these questions and everything. Nobody's contacted me. Nobody stated why any of this is clear. And now I got a feeling why they removed you from the case, because you've seen some of the evidence and you'd have to answer those questions. That's just a feeling. I can't prove it, but... So, I think this has gone way, way too far. I think that the way the college is acting, you've retaliated, you've re-victimized me. I need somebody to contact me and explain why you guys did that. And this issue with the conflict of interest to do with Cox and Palmer and Stephen McNeil. Right? I am the victim here. And you people are in a medical profession. Look at the damage you are continuously causing. Right? This is defamation, it's slander. This is an attack on me as a human being. Right? Kristen Holm is a fraud, and that's the way we got to go with this. So listen, the way Suzanne Husbands acted was not right. The way you've acted is not right. The way that your CEO and president acted, that's fraud. Right? Like, this is so easy to prove. And if you don't understand that as a professional, you're not a professional, Crystal. So you need to have somebody from your office contact me back, please, and explain why Suzanne Husbands acted like that. Right? There's very clear instances of fraud listed right there in those documents, and it seems that you're just trying to avoid those very clear questions or points. All right? So listen, I'll give you guys another day to contact me back. If not, I've done my due diligence. This is going to be posted to Facebook, so everybody's going to hear how I'm talking to you guys, and consistently. Right? I've been very polite to you. I've been very respectful, and I've been very patient. And I've been very forthcoming. I even gave you the police report, Crystal. And this is the way you're going to treat me and say that, no, Nova Scotia Health Authority would never do something like that? Also? Yeah, we already know the answer, Crystal. Listen, in all further communications, I'm asking that you all should show some respect and please refer to me as Daddy. All right, thank you and have a good day. Good morning, Suzanne. My name is Scott George. You and I had spoken through email. I did make a phone call and several emails to you there. I have a lot of concerns about the way you just handled this case, and just because I asked about conflict of interest, you retaliated and closed it, and then you defamed me and slandered me by stating that I didn't ask for an appeal when you know that not to be true. Now, you're stating these other parties wouldn't do anything with privacy or retaliate, as you just retaliated for asking a basic question about my rights. Alright, that kind of behavior is beyond disgusting. You re-victimized me, Suzanne. And, this is a serious question, and now you're not having somebody contact me back, and you're saying that Cox and Palmer and Stephen McNeil would? As you're doing the exact same thing, Suzanne? No, this is disgusting behavior, and you know this. This is bad. The college is retaliating. So, listen, I need to have somebody contact me back. I'd like to file a very serious complaint against you, Crystal Morgan, in this entire issue. Right? You guys did cause a privacy breach with my information. You did violate Section 46. This is very serious. Now, this call, along with all communications, is being put on Facebook, so they will see that you are choosing not to answer this, that you chose to slander me, you chose to re-victimize me, and you chose to retaliate, showing the culture of fraud and abuse at Nova Scotia Health Authority when you can't even answer basic questions. Now, Suzanne, my recommendation is that you resign, because that's where I'm going to head with this, okay? So, please, pass this off to your superiors. I would like somebody to contact me back. And, so thank you very much, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you. Hi, good morning. My name is Scott George. My phone number is 902-220-9106. I currently have a case open with the college in regards to several physicians in an event that occurred. In engaging with the investigator, I found some very serious instances of fraud listed. And I tried to raise these issues very professionally, and they aren't contacting me back and aren't calling me back. So if I can't contact them, I don't know who I need to contact. And these issues are very serious. I do see it as slander and defamation, and I believe that these individuals know exactly what they're doing there. So I'm just wondering if somebody could please give me a call back. This is in regards to your lead investigator, Crystal Morgan. I do need to file a very serious set of complaints, unfortunately. So I was just wondering if somebody could please give me a call back. Again, my phone number is 902-220-9106. Thank you very much, and have a great day. Hi, good morning, Crystal. This is Daddy George calling. I'm just calling in regards to the case that we had open. I noticed that you had not contacted me back. I just had a few questions for you there. I was wondering why in your final report that you had sent and submitted to the college and to Cox and Palmer that you people stated that there was no evidence that my book bag and wallet had been taken before me. Yet when we look in the marital notes, it clearly states that my book bag and wallet arrived with the previous client. I'm just wondering why you would go and then put in a final report full well knowing that that's not the case and that that evidence existed. Right? Because I actually sent you the page number that it was on, and I had contacted you several times and even have your replies acknowledging I'm talking about my book bag. So it just seems strange that you would allow them to go and actively publish something that you knew was false. Right? Because if you actually take a look at that, you just slandered and defamed me. You knew that was false and that evidence existed. So, I'm just wondering where the college's standpoint is on that. You know, it's on page 73 of the documentation you would send. I also noted that none of the things that you guys had provided, none of it, you have referenced any pages. When everything I've provided to you actually has been fully referenced, screenshots. And again, I'm a technical expert because that's what a professional does. So I'm wondering if in any type of response, if you could please provide references for any of your work so that any rational professional will be able to reference it. But I'd also like to know why you guys lied about the book bag situation and why you didn't include that it ended up with a homeless man sketched out on drugs with a giant sticker that said Scott. Think about it, Crystal. If you seen somebody with that book bag, what would you think their name was? Scott. And this is consistent with my story and all my submissions. So the fact that you left that out is extremely concerning. I would like to note that this call and all recordings that are going to be made are going to be posted to Facebook. All right? I have no other option but to protect myself. And I think this is the best way to do it. And just to highlight the level of fraud that I'm seeing from the college and Nova Scotia Health Authority there, that's to protect all of us. So if you would just like to give me a call back and just explain why you did that, what the college's rationale behind that is, it must be pretty simple if you did it. That would be great. And again, like just to show some respect, like to respect my gender pronouns, if you could please just refer to me as Daddy, that would make me feel comfortable and safe. All right. Thank you very much, Crystal. I hope you have a great day. Good morning, Susan. This is Daddy calling again. My phone number is 902-220-9106. I'm just thinking maybe you didn't receive my previous calls or emails there. I'm asking about why you closed the case and defamed and slandered me. I just want to make sure that these got passed off to your boss so they see that kind of behavior there. And, I'm just looking for a callback so we can discuss it to see, just have you maybe explain to me how that's professional behavior and stuff. But what I want to ask you, Suzanne, is how would you feel if your kid went down to report serious set of crimes to Halifax Regional Police? They state they're just getting him a paper, and then getting them paper to file a complaint. They call themselves a conflict of interest because of who's involved. State they're getting them a paper to file a complaint, and then just come back and arrest them. They take them to help the emergency room, and they're denied a lawyer over 5 times. How would you feel about that, Suzanne? You'd be pretty upset, wouldn't you? And nobody recorded it, right? And then imagine if that person's book bag ended up with your son or daughter's book bag, then ended up with somebody who's self-admittedly on drugs, sketched out walking around and had a giant sticker on it with their name on it. What would you think that person's name was? You would think that's your kid, wouldn't you, Suzanne? So in my case, Scott. So, Suzanne, when you're looking at this and you're judging me, wondering why I'm taking these steps, right? There's a lot of reasons for this, Suzanne. I'm a global technical expert, okay? What occurred with me was beyond horrific. I was denied a lawyer over 5 times. And then what they then did to me and stood up and straddled a door and mocked and humiliated me, it's disgusting. Okay? So I apologize how this might come off. Like, I have no problems with you or whatever. I think you just got roped into this and it's really inappropriate and unprofessional that they did that. But I want you to know why I have no other choice but to engage like this. And when you look at Crystal Morgan, know that you are looking at a fraud who intentionally slandered and defamed me. Okay? So, look, I'm not here to give you a hard time. If you could please pass this off to your boss, I need to know that this has been escalated, and that you individuals are hearing this. And yeah, that's all we need to do. So anyways, thank you very much, Suzanne. I hope you have a great day. Hi there, College. My name is Scott Jors. My phone number is 902-220-9106. I had called a day previous there, just looking for some assistance. I'm just calling again there today to follow up. I'm wondering, I have a very serious complaint I would like to lodge in regards to lead investigator Crystal Morgan with the college. I have some very substantial and considerable information and evidence that they committed blatant fraud. And they very much slandered and defamed me. And I just would like an opportunity just to be able to provide that in writing to somebody, or have somebody just contact me there so I can provide this information. It's in regards to Crystal Morgan and Suzanne Husbands, 2 members of your staff there. And I don't really know who to contact, so even if there's a different number or anything, if you could redirect me to that, that would be fantastic. My phone number is 902-220-9106. And I'm wondering if under pronoun laws or the rules, if you could just refer to me as Daddy instead of Scott, that would make me feel much more comfortable and safe. Thank you very much. I really look forward to your response. Have a great day. Good morning, Crystal. This is Daddy again. My phone number is 902-220-9106. I'm just calling to because I'm wondering if you are receiving my emails and if you're receiving the phone calls there. I'd just like to call and ask you another question about your investigation because I'm so concerned about the information you gathered and how it was presented. I'd like to reference page 52 in the record that you provided. And it states collateral from patient's GP reports that he has been aware of Scott's delusions for several years. However, in the past, no risk to or harm to self or others, so no grounds for him to voluntary treatment. He had provided Scott with information on MH mental health services, but does not think Scott had followed up. But then Kristen Holm writes a year and a half later in a response to the college, collateral was also obtained from Mr. George's family physician who was aware of Mr. George expressing delusions, had referred him to mental health services, however Mr. George had not followed up. So, note in the record that Kristen Holm herself deferred to, it states does not think Scott has followed up, but then in the definitive and what the college used that doesn't match the actual record, it states Mr. George had not followed up. Right? So when Kristen Holm wanted to retaliate and use that against me, she switched into some sort of definitive I had not followed up or I had not done something when she knows she doesn't know that and it doesn't even match her own notes, right? That's exactly what a fraud would do. It's actually not that surprising. Here's the reality. While at J.D. Irving, we did a serious investigation. It included VPs, directors, executives, and it included Jim Perrin, who was commander of the Criminal Investigation Unit at Halifax Regional Police. It went right up the chain to the people right at the top of J.D. Irving because it was so serious. This is why Stephen McNeil was involved, right? Because the issue was actually so serious, right? Now this comes back to why Halifax Regional Police stated they were a conflict of interest because Stephen McNeil's brother, Robin McNeil, was also chief of police at the time, right? And now we have not only him, but Dan Kinsella, another chief that would have been involved in the transfer of Jim Perrin. So by the time this was explained to Halifax Regional Police on August 2nd, they stated, oh, we're a conflict of interest, we can't handle this, and came back and just arrested me when they said they were getting me a paper, right? But the reason I'm stating this is part of the investigation because I am a professional. I actually drafted templates for Irving Shipbuilding on how to deal with these issues and deferred to mental health services for their employees. And provided resources on that and encouraged them to reach out to third parties so they could help their employees overall. And I understand why that's confusing for Kristen Holm because she doesn't understand what a professional would actually do. So, this might be a good training opportunity for her to understand that. So, in following that advice, I spoke with my doctor due to us doing the investigation and everything. And I stated because, I made a joke about having ADHD when I was a kid, that I just wanted to be thorough because these people might come after me because we knew they were going to target me based on my mother. And that's all recorded throughout the notes here, right? And obviously Kristen Holm did retaliate trying to use my severely mentally and physically disabled mother against me, which is exactly my point. So I actually did follow up with the ADHD clinic. Me and my doctor laughed about it. We knew I didn't have it, but I needed it on record for this very moment for a monster like Kristen Holm, right? So I have the record of it. Clearly I don't have it. I went through the intake, right? So this is an absolute fabrication to completely fit Kristen Holm's delusional psychosis. And if you take note and at all of her lying here, I think it's a good indication of a pathological liar because she knows she's lying about all of this, right? Because as soon as you sit down with me for a minute, you see how reasonable and logical this is, but you see how Kristen Holm's notes aren't adding up. So, anyways, I'd just like to point that out there, Crystal, because very clearly you knew the difference. It's right there in the notes, and that is slander and defamation. You completely misrepresented me, misrepresenting your own notes, and nor did you actually provide a reference from where you took this quote from. So you just made something up that fit your delusions and used it against me, right? That's extremely unprofessional. So what I would like to do is if you could please have one of your bosses contact me back, I would like to file a very, very serious complaint, Crystal. This many mistakes, this isn't just a mistake. This is full-blown fraud, right? This is a pattern of abuse, and this is something that we really need to talk about. All right, thank you very much, Crystal. I hope you have a splendid day. Thank you. Good Good morning, Suzanne. I hope you had a great evening there. This is Daddy calling again. My phone number is 902-220-9106. I'm just calling again to see if you're getting my voicemails. Again, I'd seen that you had slandered and defamed me and stated I'd not request an appeal when I had mentioned the serious conflict of interest with Cox and Palmer. So I'm just thinking maybe you forgot to follow up there, provide information, because a professional would definitely not slander and defame me like that, right, Suzanne? So I'm just calling to see if you'd like to stick with your choice. But I'd also like to explain to you why having Stephen McNeil involved is such an issue here, because I'm going to highlight what kind of a fraud Kristen Holm is. You see, in 2020, the beginning of, we did a very serious investigation at Irving Shipbuilding that involved VPs. It involved directors, it involved executives, and it involved Jim Perrin, who was commander of the Criminal Investigation Unit. The issue was so serious that it escalated to different parts in the government. Kristen Holm didn't record this because she knew how bad this was. She knew how bad this would look on the record, so she had to try to claim plausible deniability. Anyways, Suzanne, during the investigation, they mocked systemic racism and harassment on their own recordings. I caught them lying and cheating in several occasions. Which wasn't very hard, just kind of like the college here, right? Just basic literacy skills can detect fraud very quickly. And we did a whole investigation, a whole recorded meeting and everything. And afterwards, I submitted my final paper, and this would have been August 5th, 2020, saying I got you, and I requested the person right at the top step down. And the next day, Stephen McNeil resigned. Now, the reason there's so many connections here is because Robin McNeil is Stephen McNeil's brother. He was chief during the period and worked with Jim Perrin, who was now sent as this investigator, and he was transferred there after the Wortley report was released, because he was a major player in that, and they needed to transfer them to usher in change at Halifax Regional Police. But also then the newer chief, Dan Kinsella, would be directly involved because he facilitated the transfer. So this created a massive conflict of interest when I spoke with Halifax Regional Police. That's why they said, oh, we're a conflict of interest, we're going to get you a paper and to file a complaint, and Jess came back and arrested me. That's what actually happened. Kristen Holm didn't record that anywhere. Nobody recorded that anywhere. Are you surprised, Suzanne? No, I think that you're probably getting the idea that something else is going on here, right? So you can kind of see why there's such an issue with having Stephen McNeil involved. About at least 5 of his family members are directly involved in the police. So that's really what bothered Halifax Regional Police so bad that day. But if you were to check this case, you don't see that anywhere. And don't you find that interesting, Suzanne? The 3 parties never recorded that the Halifax Regional Police called themselves a conflict of interest. I think you're starting to see the theme here, right? Anyway, Suzanne, I'll just give you some time to process all of this. Just giving you a little bits of information at a time. And, you know, if you want to call me back, you and I can work through this. We're not past that point. Again, I do feel like what occurred was slander and defamation, because you did know that that wasn't true, which is pretty bad. But if the college would like to redeem themselves and show some good faith, I am here to speak about this. All right. Thank you very much, Suzanne. You have a great day. Hi there, Crystal. It's Daddy calling again. My phone number is 902-220-9106. I haven't heard back from you, and I sent some emails, just like one email there. Trying to be very professional about this. I know that's confusing for you folks, but by the end of this, I'll show you how to be professional, so don't worry about that. You're getting some free training. So, Crystal, today, I would like to cover the fact that I provided you the document that was served to me by a bailiff regarding security services, Province of Nova Scotia Protection and Property Act. Now, this document is dated 2 days before your response, right? And seemingly on the same date that Nancy Murphy responded. Now, you see the fraud listed in the complaint, you know, especially about my book bag, and they didn't record that I asked for a lawyer or anything like that. Now, I filed the complaint. You've seen there's nothing bad in there. I never threatened, did anything. So then I received this from a bailiff, right? It's dated 22nd of August. I don't receive it until over 9 days later. And it states in here, the above notice was read to Scott Jors by Anthony Jocko, security officer, in the presence of Virwaja Jahil, police officer or witness. Now, I made that very clear to you, Crystal, that that is false. I was never anywhere. Nobody ever read anything to me. I haven't even been near that site. Right? So I'm wondering why you didn't include that in your response. This blatant retaliation from Nova Scotia Health Authority and really seems to be coming from Nancy Murphy. Now I'm wondering, are you using this document against me knowing that it's fraudulent? I'm really concerned about this, right? Because this is a perfect example of ongoing fraud from Nova Scotia Health Authority and retaliation when all I'm doing is reporting facts and evidence. I've been completely kind to you. And so, like, when you look at that, how did you not include that in your response? Did you tell the Registrar Gus this? That Nova Scotia Health Authority committed fraud here again by, like, think about this. How would you feel if you were sitting in your house and you received a document that said that you were at a physical location and people read this to you and you're going to be arrested if you show up again? You'd be shocked, wouldn't you? You'd be like, this is fraud. So why are you not doing that in this case? And here's the thing, they left me exposed for 9 days, Crystal. They know I take my aunt to that hospital for heart appointments. So think about it. Who would you just believe on that day? If I would have shown up to take my aunt to a heart appointment, you would have said, looked at this paper and said, no, they read this to me. The police would have arrested me. I would have been attacked. They would have generated a fraudulent record. And who would have believed me? I didn't do anything wrong. These people committed fraud and lied about this. Right? You see how absolutely concerning that is and how this is continued fraud and retaliation and abuse. So I'm really concerned why you didn't include that in your final report. I think we know why, because you know how bad that looks in the end result. Right? So, yeah, Crystal, I'd just like to get an answer about that there. The other part that I really want to talk to you about there is I also provided you with the police report, right? And Kristen Holmes stating I was protesting outside of Halifax Regional Police, but that's nowhere's inside the police report. So I don't understand how you cannot see that as fraud when you can't even find it in the Halifax Regional Police report. It's a good instance of fraud. Now, in total, Crystal, you people have violated Section 46 of the Medical Act by sending my personal and confidential information to Cox and Palmer, who employs Stephen McNeil, one of my named abusers. You gave my personal and confidential information to individuals who are obviously hostile to that information, and now Kristen Holm, Cox and Palmer, and Stephen McNeil all have the same shared interest in covering this up, as does the college. And your behavior here is also consistent with covering that up, right? You haven't linked to or referenced anything in any of your notes. You know there are blatant instances of fraud in your replies, and you're doing nothing about it. And I didn't do anything, and you haven't even picked up a phone to contact me as a human being to ask a single question when I'm a global technical expert with all this evidence. And I assume that you're going to blame that on me somehow, right, Crystal? Like, how, like, really? When you look in a mirror at night, what do you tell yourself? I guess it doesn't matter, right? Because if you had integrity, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation right now. All right, so Crystal, under Section 46(2)A of the Medical Act, I'm calling on the fraud, Dr. Douglas Gus Grant, this registrar and CEO, to report Kristen Holm, Nancy Murphy, Hannah Marie Weimer, and yourself, Crystal Morgan, to RCMP for investigation into fraud, conspiracy, torture, forcible confinement, administering a noxious thing, breach of trust, criminal assault, criminal negligence, just as a short list. Now, as it stands, I am seeking no less than 4 years in a federal prison for any obstruction. That means if you continue to lie and commit fraud like this and pretend you didn't know, then I will absolutely be seeking 4 years in a federal prison. Kristen Holm will face no less than 4 years in a federal prison. Okay? So again, if there's any obstruction or any lying, I am going to seek no less than 4 years in a federal prison for you, Nancy Murphy, Kristen Holm. Okay? I'm sorry about that, but this is the way it's going to have to go. All right, thank you very much, Crystal, and you have a great evening. Hey, good morning, Crystal. This is Daddy calling again. My phone number is 902-220-9106. I haven't heard back from you there, and your voicemail is stating that you'll contact somebody back within 24 to 48 hours. So I'm just really concerned that maybe you're not receiving these. So I'm going to leave a few more just to make sure that the evidence is being laid out there, just in case I wasn't clear in the very detailed professional submissions that I'd made. This time I'd actually like to go over my GPS being set to residence at 9330 Highway number 7, Stillwater, Nova Scotia. Right? Remember, I'm a global technical expert. I have 18 years in the technology industry. I've worked for Research in Motion as a systems analyst, escalation point across the board. I've worked at Dalhousie, and I've worked for Canada's national shipbuilder. Very serious, considerable roles, all that can be verified. Again, Kristen Holm didn't even take that into consideration, right? So just imagine finding your GPS. I'd like you to go to viewpoint.ca and search for 9330 Highway number 7, Stillwater, Nova Scotia. Now, when you're there, click Details and go down to Land Registry. You'll note a mortgage date of July 5th, 2019. Okay, now that was 20 days before my last day at Irving Shipbuilding. Now, if you go to search.open.canada.ca/contracts and type in EMIC, E-M-I-C, what you're going to find are 2 contracts, and you'll note one matches that date perfectly. Okay? That's the designation for this property. This is why my GPS was set there. And I can have 100 technologists lined up to tell you that. This is a fact. Every security apparatus that exists is going to tell you this, Crystal. Think about that. I have this kind of evidence. I just walked you to that within a few minutes. How is it that Kristen Holm can't ask even a single basic question or reference her own record? Well, did you know, Crystal, that had absolutely nothing to do with my wallet? When the police heard this point, the woman put her fingers in her hair and was like, oh my God, did you ever think maybe you're not supposed to know? So how is it that Kristen Holm is just saying this is clearly profound when you can have this kind of evidence? Now, Crystal, like I stated, this was all found in the Wolf and the Neural Network, the alpha version that was submitted July 11, 2022, which was 22 days before my false arrest and torture. That contained 424 data points that were all cited by a global technical expert. Right? And this isn't even 5% of the evidence that I've covered with you yet. Right? Well, Kristen Holm can't even answer a basic question. So, like, when I spoke with the police, I spoke with AI, I spoke with the privacy commissioner, I looked at the law, they all said this goes to the police, but Kristen Holm is saying this is just clearly retarded. Do you see the disconnect here? It's pretty serious if you look at it, right? So, then we got to think about what Kristen Holm then went and did. You think about how complex this is. Right, and I need to speak to the police about these events, because not only that, Crystal, I had HRP pull in behind me just 24 hours after submitting my complaint and asking me about a woman in a night dress when my severely mentally and physically disabled mother is known for wearing night dresses. Okay, at the same time, there was an SUV stalking my cousin's children, and they surrounded them, and their neighbor really went after them, and the person got out and stated, oh, please, I'm a private investigator. Please don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me. Now, they reported that to the police as a pedophile twice, and nobody contacted them back. And this is all in the same time frame of a lot of this. Now, imagine then your wallet showing up with these police who then get jobs, lucrative transfers at J.D. Irving. You can see the problem here. You'd have the very same questions. But Kristen Holm called my severely mentally and physically disabled mother, literally lied to her, said that I was protesting outside of Halifax Regional Police. There's absolutely no record of that. And said I was causing a bunch of issues and that the police had reviewed my case and that I was basically retarded. And all my mother said to her was that I'm up all night, all day on that computer. I'm a global technical expert who lives 41 kilometers from a gas station. Right? I do everything on my computer, but it doesn't matter. I shouldn't have to justify myself. I'm caring for a severely sick person. And deferred to my aunt. My aunt completely defended me, saying everything that I'm saying. Kristen Holm and you left that out and then tried to use what my mother said against me, a sick mother. We found out she had a 17-centimeter mass in her stomach while I was in the hospital, Crystal. That's right, leaking pus. So if my mother couldn't if Kristen Holm couldn't see how could my mother? That's right, she took advantage of a severely sick person. Crystal, this is really serious, and I need you to escalate this, okay? Now, I'm going to run out of time. It says I only have 20 seconds, so I'm going to shorten this up. Thank you very much, and have a good day. Hi, Crystal. This is Daddy again. Phone number 902-220-9106. I just have to finish up my last one there. I didn't know how long it would take to go through that, so this will be very quickly here, okay? So I want you to look at what Kristen Holm did, right? She stripped my rights and my dignity. She stripped my chartered rights, and now she can't even answer a basic question. Do you see the reason that we have our chartered rights? Right, to protect those kinds of dignity? Because even 100 years ago, they knew what kind of a monster Kristen Holm is. They know what she will do, lie, cheat, and steal. And then even when presented with incredible evidence right to her face, she is still going to lie, cheat, and steal, Crystal. Think about this. I'm a global technical expert, right? She tried to clinically diagnose something with me. She obviously didn't. She was a fraud, right? But technically, she clinically diagnosed her own delusional psychosis, didn't she? She fixated on things that fit her violent delusions. And now she can't even answer a basic question, right? But look at her pathological lying. You can see this constantly, right? This is a good indication of a serious sociopathic behavioral disorder. And Kristen Holm very much diagnosed this herself. She can't even answer a basic question. She lied, said, I'm disorganized, yet I've got all of these data points and all of this data that even the police and everybody are shocked at. So if she's trying to diagnose me, didn't she diagnose herself? Of course she did, Crystal. So when you look at this here and you go home tonight, you're going to go home and tell your partner and your mother and father you're just a hero helping everybody live their best lives. Crystal, is that what you're going to do? Because I can tell you that everybody's going to hear this, Crystal. They're going to see what you did. They're going to see your omissions. They're going to see that you lied, cheat, and steal, and you tried to cover this up. All right, I didn't make you choose that. You actively chose it. When you thought you could get away with this, Crystal, look what you did. You lied, cheat, and steal, and you committed fraud. And it's not my fault. You chose it. So you remember that when you look at your family members and you look at your friends and they're saying, Crystal, why would you do something like that? It's because it was easy. You would have destroyed my life just because it was easy and got you what you wanted. Right? And you can't blame me for that, Crystal. That's something inside of you that you really need to address. Okay, so what I need to do, Crystal, is I need to file a very, very serious complaint against you and Kristen Holm and Suzanne Husbands. Right? You have directly committed fraud by your fraudulent record that you provided and your inability to even ask a basic question. Right? You didn't even pick up a phone to contact me so you could re-victimize me and justify treating me less than human, Crystal. So you could blame me further, just as you blame my mother. Right? You took advantage of took advantage of people you consider vulnerable, and you knew that you did this. All right, I'm also asking that the college defer the case to RCMP for criminal investigation into fraud, conspiracy, torture, forcible confinement, breach of trust, criminal assault, criminal negligence. Just as a short list, I have already engaged them and asked for the same. I am seeking no less than 4 years in a federal prison for that violent criminal offender, Kristen Holm. And now I'm going to be seeking serious charges of fraud for you and different staff, including your registrar who signed off on the blatant fraud. And there's nothing else that I can do. So, and Crystal, like, you do see that they did cause a serious privacy breach, right? And you did violate Section 46 of your own Medical Act and sent my personal and confidential information to my named abusers, co-workers, and their boss, a whole legal company who has every reason to be hostile to that information. So I need the college themselves to please reach out to me and explain what it is that I need to do. I need you to make sure that Nova Scotia Health Authority has reported the serious privacy breach regarding my book bag, my wallet, my health card, which is direct PHI. I need you to engage in these actions. If you don't, this is an extremely high level of fraud and retaliation being displayed by the College of Surgeons in Nova Scotia, and I think that you guys have definitely slipped into the realm of civil liability and criminal liability at this point if you continue down your path of lying, cheating, and stealing. So I'm just trying to make sure that you don't, Crystal, don't throw your career away for this monster, Kristen Holm. Don't do that. Listen, don't protect these corrupt police. That's what they want you to do, Crystal. Right? And then they want to burn your career so they can blame everybody else but themselves. You need to take a step back and just really take a breath and recognize what's really happening here. Okay? I am one of the best in the world, Crystal. That's why I'm so good at this. This is why you can follow along in seconds. Okay? These people are screwing you like they screwed me, and I don't want you to lose your job because of this, but I am not going to back down, Crystal. All right. Listen, I hope you have a great day. Thank you very much. Good morning, Suzanne. It's Daddy calling again. I hope you had a splendid evening. My phone number is 902-220-9106. I'm just calling there. I'm concerned maybe you're not receiving my calls or the emails. I'm really concerned at you misrepresenting me and stating that there was I did not request an appeal when I brought up a major conflict of interest there, and you refused to even provide a single basic answer, and then stated I didn't request an appeal, and then just closed the case, completely slandering and defaming me. Right, just completely unprofessional behavior. But hey, right, we're gonna look past that for this next part of the conversation. Okay. So I want to kind of give you an idea of what Kristen Holm did, okay? She called my severely mentally and physically disabled mother, told her that I was protesting outside of Halifax Regional Police, causing a bunch of issues, and that Halifax Regional Police had reviewed the evidence that I was submitting to them and determined that I was basically retarded. None of that happened, Suzanne. The HRP record absolutely confirms it, and all the video evidence. It is absolutely 100% fraud. That's right, 100% fraud. And all my mother said is he's up all day, all night on that computer, and deferred to my aunt. Now, this is a severely mentally and physically disabled. My aunt completely defended me. You will see that nowhere in the record whatsoever. You won't see that I provided care for this individual for 7 years. Serious care for a severely mentally and physically disabled woman, Suzanne. Isn't that interesting that that's not included? And Kristen Holm used that against me, and nobody clarified that, not even in the response from the college. Of course, Suzanne, you know what that is, right? These people are trying to hide their abuse and what they did, and now Kristen Holm is trying to blame my severely mentally and physically disabled mother when she couldn't even ask a basic question. Listen, Suzanne, I've been in this business for 18 years. I've worked for Research in Motion. I've worked across all the escalation points. I've worked for Dalhousie, and I've worked for Canada's National Shipbuilder, where I'm one of the best, okay? We did a very serious investigation at Irving Shipbuilding because I am one of the best. Do you see what I'm saying? I am a programmer, right? Systems analyst. So I spend all my time around my computer, and that's where I do everything. So I just want to try to give you an idea of how sick what these people are actually doing are. Now, my mother was so sick during that period. I told Kristen Holm this, and she never recorded any of it. We found a 17-centimeter mass in her stomach. It was a tumor and a cyst leaking pus, making her delirious. She had fallen and crushed the garbage can while I was in the hospital. She thought I was only in the hospital 3 days, and I was in there for 10. Before that, and I will have family members lined up to talk about how sick she was, and they were saying, Scott, she can't talk to you like that, she can't act to you like that. And it's like, no, she's sick, something serious is going on. And Kristen Holm didn't record any of this, and then called her and used her basic statement of he's up all day, all night on that computer. That's right, my mother had the most issues at night. Right, I'd have to help her get up and clean up, urine or feces off of the floor. And just within the last 6 months, she had almost burnt the house down several times. One time she was running with the pillow on fire. And I just got the fire out. We almost died in our sleep. And she had burn marks up her arm, and she couldn't feel them, Suzanne. The burns and the blisters. And, within months, she's like, Scott, I feel like I'm losing my mind. And I dealt with the mood swings. I dealt with the different abuse. I dealt with the confusion. She would lie in her bed, Suzanne, and watch the same episode of a show twice a day and swear she never seen it. And Kristen Holm was aware of this. And then she went and used that severely mentally and physically disabled person in a very general comment made by them to justify her severe violent delusions. That's right. On top of my book bag, on top of the person standing up, straddling a door, mocking, humiliating me, on top of me being denied a lawyer over and over and over. Now, my mother was so sick within a month, I was picking her up from her own urine and feces, she couldn't answer me. She died January 29th. That morning, the Premier, Tim Houston, showed up at the hospital. Because this is so bad, Suzanne. That's right. That same morning, neighbors reported lights in my house. Listen, Suzanne, you do not want to associate yourself with these people and what they did. Okay? I have no problems with you as a person. Okay? I have no problems with you. I need you to escalate this case, and please have somebody contact me back to discuss that severe conflict of interest and why these individuals went down this road. All right, thank you very much, Suzanne, and I hope you have a great day. Hi, Crystal. It's Daddy calling again. I hope you're doing well, and I hope you have a good weekend there. This is Friday night, so hopefully you're having a drink. Have one for me, please. Gave up drinking, smoking, all that good stuff. Listen, Crystal, I haven't heard back from you there, so I don't know if you're really getting my messages, if you're intentionally ignoring them, or probably trying to use them against me in some way, right? Um, uh, what really can I do about that? Nothing, right? Try to be a good person and watch what you people do when you think you can get away with it. But, that life is what it is, right? So anyways, tonight I'm actually calling you about some statements in the reply regarding Kristen Holm. I'd like you to take a look at it, and I'm going to read you a quote here. It says, on assessment in psychiatric emergency, you were noted to be expressing delusional beliefs regarding multiple public figures in Halifax. Okay, so first off, I went to the police with 424 data points as a global technical expert, asking them to please sit down and talk about this instead of talking about it out in the open so we could reference the record. They said, we're a major conflict of interest because of who they knew were involved, and said they were going to get me a paper to file a complaint, just came back and arrested me. Right? So we actually never got to sit down and go through any evidence, and you see the Wolf in the Neural Network was released. It's 424 data points, has absolutely incredible evidence. I can ask you one question, Crystal, that has absolutely nothing to do with my wallet, nothing. How did my GPS location get set to 9330, highway number 7, Stillwater, Nova Scotia? What are the associations with EMIC, SCL Group, and Cambridge Analytica, and why are there pictures of the registered owner at Irving Shipbuilding? Right? So, like, right there, I'll have 100 technologists lined up to, testify to the spyware portion of this, right? But I also have military IPs connecting to my systems. All of this was provided to you, and I don't see any type of note of any of that. But that's not really what we're going to get to here, okay? So, I want to know what public figures that these delusional beliefs were including, right? Because now you never listed a single name. You never listed how many. There's absolutely nothing. So how could we ever have a professional conversation about who or who was not involved or what was or was not said if you can't even list these supposed public figures that were involved? We can't. Your whole record doesn't even reference anything in your notes. If there are no citations, there's nothing like that for any professional or rational person to be able to have a realistic fact-based conversation. Imagine if you submitted a document to a university professor with that kind of content. They would throw it in the garbage and give you an F. You know that. So what now, in terms of a document that has such a bearing on my life, whether it's from a legal or medical perspective or from a professional perspective, right? Something very serious, and you would submit that kind of quality and then say, no, we don't think poorly of you as a person. Surely you do, right? But I would like to know what public figures, right? We did an investigation at J.D. Irving. It involved Director Jacob Jacobowski. It involved VP of Human Resources, Jim Reaney. It involved Jim Perrin, who was commander of the Criminal Investigation Unit with HRP, but also the superintendent. It also involved some other parties. This was escalated directly to the defense minister. This was escalated to the different levels of federal and local government. As part of the investigation, certain statements were made by certain individuals, up to and including, I'm just trying to get my wife into here from China. Psst, I'm out of here. One day before the investigation started, we did an interview at the CSIS Nest. This would have been on December 10th, 2019. That's right. So I'd like to know what public figures were involved. And I'd like to know where inside of IPTA that it states if a public figure is involved, Scott Jors is just retarded. I would like to know where it says something like that, because I thought everything was supposed to be based on facts and evidence and human dignity. This isn't facts and evidence and human dignity. This is a hit piece. This is done maliciously to absolutely slander me. All right? So, again, under Section 46(2)(a) of the Medical Code, I am asking the corrupt fraud, Dr. Grant Gus, to please defer this case to RCMP for serious criminal investigation. All right. Thank you very much, Crystal, and have a good day. Good morning, Crystal. This is Daddy calling again. I hope you had a fantastic night and are having a great start to your weekend. I'm calling to provide just another update in regards to your response that you sent to me on January 15, 2024. I want to express a lot of disgust and at the fact that how you guys perceived in my mother and how you used her against me here. All right, I'm going to read you an excerpt from your own notes. Collateral information was obtained from your mother, Debbie Jors, who expressed significant concern that something was happening to you. Collateral information was also obtained from your family physician, who was aware of you expressing delusions. My mother had serious mental and physical disabilities. She could barely move her feet. And the cognitive issues, she would lie in bed and watch the shame show twice a day and not know. Okay? Like, I had to help her get cleaned up if there was shit and piss on her, and she would fight me about it. It was constant retaliation if I said or did anything, and this is all well noted, not only by me, but my family members. When we had a serious issue with my mother, my sister called me, and I was like, I need help, and she's like, that is not my mother. It was that bad. She would sometimes stand there, piss on the floor, and look at me and say, what's it to you? Right? If I asked her to even boil water, she would pour the macaroni all over the stove and say, look, you did that. That's your fault. That's your fault. She tripped over a Pepsi can and blamed me for 2 weeks. If I say even the wrong thing, she'll steal money from the drawers and empty the bank accounts. My mother had a very serious mental illness, and it was seriously retaliatory. Everybody knows this. I have home care coming in and a bunch of family members. Okay? So let's read what you guys recorded Mom said, okay? Go all day, not sleep on that computer. So I'm up all day, all night on the computer. I'm a software engineer, programmer, systems analyst, one of the best. I have 3 monitors for development. This is my job, right? I got to work in my room. I live 41 kilometers from a gas station. So, right? And they said, oh, for 6 months. The last 2 months prior to my arrest, I was working on the Wolf and the Neural Network, but Mom was really sick. 6 months prior to that date, she was running with a pillow on fire, burnt her arms up. I just got the fire out. We almost lost the house. She couldn't even feel the burn marks on her arms. She came to me, said, Scott, I feel like I'm losing my mind. Throughout that period, family members were coming to me saying, Scott, she can't talk to you like that. Like, that's really mean and embarrassing. It's like, look, she's my mom. I love her. I know she is sick. That's right. Everybody knew it. And I asked my family for help, and they said no. They treated me and her like trash. They wanted Mom out of the picture so they could try to get her part of the house. Mom knew it, I knew it, everybody knew it. Right? So, they said, pacing back and forth. I can't even just be in my room alone. Appeared bothered and stressed. Something was happening to him. Aunt Glenda noticed. There's no past history. Now, she said, you should just call his aunt to see what she says. Right? So there's nothing bad there. My mom just, anything that was said was used against me. So now let's see what my aunt said. Who my severely mentally and physically disabled mother deferred to. States, there's absolutely nothing wrong with his mental health. Only changes got a little stressed with what's going on. He is more intelligent than him. He's been framed as far as I'm concerned. The police in Irving have framed him. Does not think it's delusional as it's happened in the job. All he wants is someone in authority to sit down and talk to him, and this would be over. She notes this has been over 3 years. She thinks he's holding up really well, but he would like to get the hell out of there. Adamant he needs to get out of here. The hospital. Believes he needs to talk to someone in authority in hopes that I can direct my reports. There. That's right, because she's seen a bunch of the evidence. Like the police, when they seen the evidence, they were like, oh my God, maybe you're not supposed to know. That's right. So, you got exactly how sick my mother was. She had a 17 centimeter mass leaking pus into her body. That's right. Within a month, I was picking her up out of her own piss and shit on the floor. Right? When she was in the hospital, they noted the serious cognitive issues. They noted about the retaliation, and they took me aside and said, Scott, how long have you been dealing with this? And I just cried because it was so bad. Now, what do you think Kristen Holm would have done to somebody who stood there pissed on the floor and said, what's it to you? She would have had them grabbed by 2 men put in a room pumped full of drugs where she pretended she was a hero. For 7 years, I showed my mother love and compassion. I gave her a quality of life. that she would never have had otherwise because I loved her. And Kristen Holm absolutely used and abused her. And you left the severity of that out of this record because you know how bad it is that you based any decision based on what my mother said, especially that she deferred to my aunt in page 8081. And you didn't include any of that. Well, note. Hi, Crystal, it's Daddy again. I still have a little bit to finish up from the last one there, so sorry about that. It's hard to really plan these into like a little chunk, right? So, we were just talking about my mother and how inappropriate it was. So, from a psychological perspective, anybody looking at that record, had it shown this situation with my mother, they would have absolutely reprimanded Crystal Holm. So how isn't it that this fraud Gus doesn't see that, or the person reviewing this case doesn't see that? Right? I made the submissions about how objectively sick my mother was. There are objective medical records where the employees themselves state that there are early signs of dementia. Right? She died on January 1st, 29, or January 29, 23. All objective, matter of fact. I can't make up a pus tumor leaking into her body. Do you want to know what I told Kristen Holm? I begged her. I was like, Kristen Holm, my mom cannot be alone. She's really, really sick. Listen, if you want to lock me up or anything, I understand, but I got to go make sure that she is taken care of because something serious is going on. I promise you, I will come right back in here and stay as long as you need me to do because I don't care about me. I care about her. When I was in the hospital, Mom fell and crushed a garbage can. She thought I was only in the hospital for 3 days. When she came to see me at the hospital, her mouth was hanging open that she could barely talk. When me and her listened to the recording of Dr. Holm together, she cried. We cried together. She's like, Scott, she 100% lied to me. 100%. She told me you were causing a bunch of problems and protesting. That's right. Kristen Holm called my disabled mother, full well knowing she could not understand any of this, did not have the faculties, and lied to her and said that I was outside Halifax Regional Police protesting and causing a bunch of issues, and that police reviewed the evidence and I was just retarded. Think about that. Kristen Holm knew how mentally and physically disabled my mother was and called her, lied to her, used her, abused her, then didn't even include what my aunt said because she knew how bad it was. That's right. And for Kristen Holm to say, oh, he didn't talk about his mom, yes, I did. Yes, I absolutely did. That was my primary concern. And in 1304 in the audio recording on August 5th, 2022, you can hear her. She says, you talked about the struggles with your mom and caring for your mom. Yeah, I did, and you didn't record them, Kristen, because it didn't fit your violent delusions, did it? Amazing. Right? And then you go see Kristen Holm with my doctor stating that doctor provided Scott with information on mental health services, but does not think Scott had followed up. That's from the actual recorded notes, but then states had referred him to mental health services. However, Mr. Jorce had not followed up, directly slandering me because Kristen Holm wants to use it against me. When the facts are, I never ever talked to my doctor about my wallet. I talked to him about the ongoing investigation at J.D. Irving at the time, which is an objective fact. So how is any of that delusional? Right? So why is Kristen Holm calling it delusions? What was delusions? She doesn't even specify. She just uses this vague word, a buzzword, without any type of description whatsoever. Well, she uses and abuses my mother, full well knowing on page 80, my aunt full-heartedly defends me, showing you what this woman would do. She didn't want to hear what was actually happening. It wasn't based on facts, evidence, due process. I built a whole fact-checking platform, right? I've referenced everything. She hasn't referenced anything here, and she's avoided using her own notes because she knows how bad this is. And now looking at this, how could Gus the fraud registrar and CEO not see this? Right? Of course he can. Look at all the issues in your report. Of course he can see it, and this is intentional behavior. Gus, I am absolutely deferring this case to the RCMP for investigation into fraud. Do you understand me? You absolutely will step down from your position. I am asking for termination with cause on your HR file. Any and all severances are to be donated to charity. I'm calling for formal reprimand of Crystal Morgan and her immediate resignation. I'm calling for resignation of Suzanne Husbands with formal reprimand on her file. I'm apologize that this is what this came to, but you cannot engage with this kind of slander and fraud. Thank you. Anyway, what I'd like to talk about today, Suzanne, is about the shipbuilding contracts that Cox and Palmer have with J.D. Irving. You see, I actually called Cox and Palmer and said, hey, look, we got this issue with J.D. Irving. I'd like to move forward and see if I can get a lawyer. And they said they can't because they are a major conflict of interest. That's right. So just as Stephen McNeil is also a conflict of interest. This is coming right from Cox and Palmer themselves. Now note the individuals that are involved in this complaint, Stephen McNeil and J.D. Irving, right? And now the college has submitted fraudulent information that makes no sense. You didn't reference anything. Right? There are blatant lies. I even provided the page numbers and you guys didn't list them because you knew you were lying. And you sent this off, this fraudulent information and my personal and confidential information to Cox and Palmer, who employ Stephen McNeil, right? But you sent it to his coworkers and you sent it to his boss, who you know are absolutely hostile to that information, but they also have serious lucrative contracts with J.D. Irving. And now you sent them this information stating I'm delusional, I'm just basically crazy. Well, you completely misrepresented me in that submission, and you're telling me that they're not a conflict of interest, when obviously they are. And then you went and lied and said I didn't request an appeal when all I asked you was a basic, simple question about conflict of interest that any reasonable person would ask. And you treated me like trash, Suzanne. Like I was a bad person. So listen, socially, economically, how many people have you abused like this? That's my question. Right? I look at this and I see this statement from about Gus Grant, and he says, if racism exists in medicine, Dr. Gus Grant says it stands to reason that it also exists in medical regulation. I am one of the best in the world. I have a whole platform built to fact check everything. I made all my submissions in writing, which they didn't copy and paste or do anything. Right? They completely took advantage of my social economic situation. So if a young black man, a young indigenous man, a young Asian man, young woman come through there, that you know those groups, on average, are less socially, economically capable, then what are you going to do to them? Right? So we already know that racism and this hate exists inside these systems. It's in there as systemic failure and systemic bias. Right? But for Dr. Gus Grant to stand there and say like he doesn't know where it's at as he's stripping my rights and dignity. Right? See, Suzanne, when at J.D. Irving, I mentioned these things about racism to these police officers and stuff, and they retaliated. I got them on recording mocking systemic racism and harassment. I then got stalked up and down the road by 2 RCMP officers while I was protesting racism locally. It was really bad. It's in a newspaper. That's right. I was stalked out of a driveway out of my sister's driveway by a police officer because I'm a gay bro. All right? These issues all stemmed from HRP transferring their officers after the Wortley report and not taking it seriously. And here you have Dr. Gus Grant lying about it and protecting these corrupt police officers and having Kristen Holm making statements like, oh, well, police just do that all the time, right? Implicit trust for the police, and I'm just guilty. Do you see the issue here, Suzanne? How many people have you used and abused? How many lives have you people ruined because you can't look in a mirror and face who you really are? I can tell you this, Gus, you don't need to do a big investigation to figure out who the problem is. Any man that would do something like what you're doing right now and sign up on that kind of failure, you are the issue in the system. You are the failure in the system, Gus. So, here's the other thing, Suzanne. Did you know that Gus was he studied literature at Harvard Law, and then he studied law at McGill University? That's right. So he knows that if he were to take that to a judge, they would slap him on the wrist. He knows about the conflict of interest. He studied law. So he studied law, so he knows about the conflict of interest. He knows all of this. So why do you think he's doing this, Suzanne? You already know the reason. All right. We'll accept absolutely nothing less than the immediate resignation of the fraud, Dr. Gus Grant. Thank you very much and have a good day.